Hi, I'm in pursuit of trying to bring climate discussion center stage so that people end up doing something about it.
Hello and welcome back to In Pursuit of. Today's guest is Rajan Mehta, author of the book Backstage Climate. He is in pursuit of bringing climate change discussions to the dining table. So Rajan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I've read part of your book. It's very interesting. A lot of people, they have this argument sometimes about that climate change is just part of the normal evolution of the planet. So what do you have to say about this?
What you're saying is right. I would say not as much a part of natural evolution as it is a part of natural cycles.
Okay.
If you look at the climatic history of our planet, then it goes through these cycles of being very cold to then becoming extremely hot and back again. These happen because of two natural phenomenon. One is the orbital cycle, which is governed by the revolution of the Earth around the Sun and its rotation around its axis. And the other one is because of the carbon cycle. So it does what you're saying is correct. But the difference is this cycle happens over millions of years, thereby giving time to various species to adapt, to adjust, to migrate. What is happening now is on steroids. And that is so because of human intervention. We've loaded the atmosphere with so much of greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide that it's causing our planet to warm beyond the normal. And that is what is causing climate change.
Rajan, tell me, in this book, how have you addressed the political and economic aspects of climate change?
Two very important subjects because, science or scientists and technologists have understood the dynamics of climate change, and left to their own elements, they will come up with a solution. But until the power structures and the economic structures come in place, change will not happen.
Absolutely.
Climate change is not one nation's or one person's problem. It's a global, universal problem. So everybody has to kind of come together. And that's what Paris Agreement has done. For the first time, they've agreed on a goal that they're going to try to keep the temperature at less than 2 degrees above the pre-industrial levels. They've developed a mechanism, rather, called the Common but Differentiated Responsibilities, that every nation voluntarily will come up with some targets and meet them. They have tried to put a mechanism to bring in finances. They have also, agreed on 3 steps, which is how to mitigate the emissions, how to adapt the existing ways of life that we have so that less damage is done. And in case there is damage done because of climate change, some funds are being put together to address that as well. So at the global level, I think nations are trying to come together, other than some disruptions being caused by the current geopolitics situation. At the domestic level, it's more challenging, not for India, but I'm talking every nation in the world. And that is because of the political economy. Most of the nations, if you see, a large part of the government's revenue today comes from fossil fuels. And this is not only for oil-producing countries, but also for non-oil-producing countries. For example, if you look at India, 18% of the government's revenue today comes from fossil fuels. And this is by way of customs duty, cess, income tax, the profits of these oil companies, and various other ways. It therefore becomes very difficult for a nation to all of a sudden give up fossil fuels, because how are they going to run the country, right? So challenges like this come in the way. Second is, there are also social issues. For example, even in India, the coal industry itself employs approximately 4 million people. And these are concentrated in just 3 states. Now, all of a sudden, if you say put an end to the thermal power plants, what happens to these 4 million people? It's not an easy decision to take.
Right.
Same way, you would look at many other issues like this are there. So these are the things which are coming in the way of taking decisions in a timely manner to be able to transition to a cleaner energy, this thing, or avoid a climate crisis.
Right, but I think also, I mean, there's so many other things also like deforestation and building, etc. So how does all of that fit into this? A lot of times, the common man feels at a loss because we can see that things are not going right.
So, Parna, if you look at the last 250 years or so, the progress that we've seen, the development we've seen, the growth we've seen, the improvement in lifestyles that we've seen, if there weren't any energy, then the development would not have taken place. So all of us are culprits in it because we've all been enjoying. And now that we understand or realize that the collateral damage of using this kind of, I would say, dirty energy has been climate change, we're all kind of cautioned about it. More importantly, the developed world, because they were the first ones to realize this black magic, and they used it to their advantage to strengthen their military, to strengthen their societies, to strengthen their economy. And all of a sudden, now that we realize they're turning around, this is kind of bad for everyone, right? And rightly so, to be honest, because it is bad for everyone. Today, if a climate disaster happens anywhere, if it happens in the West or in the developed countries, they have the wherewithal to take care of it. They have the technology, money, systems, infrastructure. God forbid if it happens in the developing world, we have none. We have only nature to, kind of go to. So therefore, it's very important for everybody to participate. But having said that, while the West putting greenhouse gases, the developing world was preserving the nature. And now the tables have turned. Developing world has seen the good life on the other side.
So we want that.
And deservedly so. Why not, right? But it has to be done in a clean manner. There are ways to do it. So the developing world is kind of pointing fingers, and rightly so, at the developed world, saying, you guys caused this problem. And if you want us to stop, then help us with technology, money.
Right.
That's where the
tussle
is at the global level. If we have money, I think our scientists, technologists, our entrepreneurs will have the runway in front of them to be able to invest and come up with solutions very fast. Things will happen, but I think money is the underlying factor.
Okay. So Rajan, tell me, when you were writing this book, there's so many opinions out there, but there's fact and data. To be able to sift between the two,
I wanted to talk about the science. I wanted to talk about the politics. I wanted to talk about the economics. I wanted to tell them what's going on in the world, the negatives and the positives both, so that people are equipped. They feel invested in the whole thing, because if they are invested and they become aware, then they will do something about it. So from a writing point of view, my challenge was how to keep it simple. How do I kind of cover all the aspects which may tickle people's interest? And yes, and I wrote it fairly quickly, honestly, But then when the publishers stepped in, they wanted kind of sources of data and get all the references.
So Rajan, what kind of solutions or actions do you propose to mitigate the effects of climate change?
In terms of mitigation of emissions, we have to understand where the emissions are coming from, right? Fossil fuels are primarily used for generating electricity power. 65% of global electricity is still generated using fossil fuels, primarily coal, but also natural gas and petroleum. Electricity itself is contributing around 36 billion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. That's huge. So what we need to do is transition that electricity to cleaner electricity. Looking at the way our energy needs are growing, I guess at some point in time, solar and wind may not be able to
keep up
with the difference or the mismatch between the demand for electricity and its supply, which is getting addressed by storage systems. But both solar and wind come with their own baggage in terms of there's a lot of material used, and that has a carbon footprint. So, I do believe that at some point in time, the world will have to look at nuclear energy. It has issues around it of safety and also of cost. It's cleaner, but that's another couple of decades away. So we need to address electricity generation and shift it to clean sources. The second is transportation, which uses a lot of fossil fuels. And therefore, you see this whole transition to electric vehicles, which is happening. Third is land use and agriculture. Now, a lot of us think something as natural as agriculture and land, how can they be kind of contributors to climate change? But they are. So when
in Delhi, we know.
In Delhi, we know, the stubble burning. But otherwise also, whenever we have to cultivate, we clear forests. And when we clear forests, we either burn them or cut them. Either way, carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere. Then we till the land, and tilling the land
that also
exposes absolutely the organic matter to air and moisture, and therefore it decomposes. Cultivation itself, when you grow rice, growing rice gives out methane because you flood the fields, and the microbes under the water, they decompose without oxygen, and therefore emitting methane, which is 80 times as potent as carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. And then right from the time we harvest, where we burn the stubble in many cases, and it causes pollution and gives out carbon dioxide, 33% of the food worldwide is wasted, right from the time it moves out from the farm and onto our dining table. And food wastage leads to decomposition of food, which leads to emission of gases. So all this does. But I also want to talk to you about the big daddies, and that's the cattle.
Yes.
They give out methane. Just like if I was to add 1 kg of mass, I, let's say, consume 1 kg of food. For the cattle, if they have to put up 1 kg of mass, they need 8 kgs of food. And this food is not just by grazing, right? This is grown. And 17% of the Amazon in Brazil and South America has been cleared just for animal feed.
In fact, they say in the Netherlands, actually, that's become a really big issue now. The methane being produced by the cattle.
There's now plant-based meat coming up. It saw some early success, but it's kind of flattening now. There are probiotics being developed for animal feed, by way of which the methane emissions can go down. This concept of no-till farming, and there are special methods for rice growing that are coming up. So, definitely things are happening. Even on the industry side, you'll be surprised, 12% or 13% of the entire emissions come from just cement and steel.
That's true. I'm sure it doesn't occur to most people, because we just think that it's coal, and we think that it's, using ACs and fridges, and that's about it, right? But I guess we all can play a small part anyways.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stay with us while I continue my chat with Rajan Mehta. We'll be back soon.